Today we're diving into a story that starts with what seems like a simple legal case in Salt Lake City, but it spirals into a massive national conspiracy, one that could literally shake the foundations of America. It's a wild tale of buried history, secret deals, and the absolutely terrifying price of digging up the truth. So let's get right into it. Our story kicks off with this really cryptic line from one of our main characters, John. Right away, you get this feeling of secrecy, of some really high stakes. What game are they playing? And probably more important, who are they? To figure that out, we've got to go back to how it all started. All right, so let's meet our protagonists, Michel and John. They're a couple of lawyers just trying to make ends meet. And their whole incredible journey begins not with some huge dramatic event, but with a seemingly boring job that gets, well, complicated. Fast. So their boss hands them this gig that on the surface looks like a total cakewalk, sell an old, forgotten train station. But just look at these numbers. A commission of up to $50,000 for a busted old building in the middle of nowhere? That is the first major red flag, the very first clue that this is not your average real estate deal. And this is the question that changes everything. Why in the world would someone offer such a huge payday for a piece of property that looks, for all intents and purposes, completely worthless? It's this question right here that pushes them out of a simple transaction and into something way, way deeper and a whole lot more dangerous. So they start digging around, and that leads them to an old informant, a railroad vet named Stuart. Now, he's the guy who holds the key to a secret that's literally woven into the steel of the American railroad, a secret that has been kept buried for 200 years. You know, to really grasp the scale of this conspiracy, you have to understand the railroad boom. In just 40 years, the U.S. went from 30,000 miles of track to almost 200,000. I mean, the railroad didn't just connect the country, it built modern America. And as Stuart is about to reveal, it was all built on top of an impossible secret. But here's the twist. According to Stuart, this story doesn't start with steam engines or train tracks at all. Nope, it starts with the French Revolution. He spins this incredible tale about survivors of a noble family who escaped to America with a fortune in gold and a brilliant long-term plan. And here it is, the bombshell, the DuPernes contract. Signed way back in 1793, it gave this one family a 200-year lease with exclusive rights to all land, and this is crucial, the mineral rights too, within 20 miles of any railway they helped finance. Just let that sink in. We're talking about a massive portion of the United States, all secretly owned by a single company. So what's the catch? The expiration date, December 31st, 1993. Now, when Michel and John uncover all this, that date is only 16 months away. The clock is ticking loud. The stakes are just unbelievably high. Of course, you don't unearth a secret this big and just walk away. The second they figure out what's really going on, the pushback starts. And it is violent, it is systematic, and it is deadly. The truth, as it turns out, has a very, very high price. Their informant, Stuart, is the first to pay that price. The official story is that a leaking gas line caused an explosion at his house. But here's a chilling little detail from the report that somehow gets missed. Stuart didn't have a gas connection. This wasn't an accident. It was a message, an execution. Their search for the original contract leads them to the National Library Archives in D.C., and they find it. But before they can even make a single copy, they're ambushed. They're knocked unconscious, and the priceless, one-of-a-kind evidence is gone. It's just a brutal warning. The people they're dealing with are ruthless, and they're always one step ahead. Then, when they fly to St. Louis to try and track down the DuPernes family themselves, they're met with this so-called security inspection. They're grabbed right at the gate, pulled into separate rooms, and put through these invasive body searches. This isn't security, this is pure intimidation, and it's designed to break them. But the physical threats are only half the war. The constant fear, the paranoia, it starts to take a serious psychological toll. Michel begins having these terrifying, completely surreal nightmares. They're not just fighting shadows in the real world anymore, they're fighting them inside her own head. And her nightmares, they always follow this horrifying pattern. It starts with a searing, blinding white light that just burns everything away. A total sensory overload. And then out of that light, these two enormous, cold, unblinking insect eyes appear. They just stare down at her with this alien intelligence. It's not human, it's just observing her, like a specimen. And this is where it gets really weird. She's not alone with this thing. Standing off to the side are men in black uniforms, and their insignia is clear: FEMA. They're not helping her, they're just watching, their faces totally blank. And the nightmare always ends with this final, gut-wrenching image, the needle. It's long, it's menacing, and it plunges deep into her neck. She wakes up screaming every time, feeling this phantom pain that feels terrifyingly real. So after all of this, the murder, the attacks, the psychological horror, you'd think they would just give up. I mean, who wouldn't? But they're not broken. Instead, they decide to make one final desperate play. They're going to take the fight directly to the DuPernes family. So let's just recap their situation, because it is bleak. The proof is gone, their enemies are watching every single move they make, the deadline on the contract is getting closer every day, the nightmares are getting worse, they are completely cornered with only one move left. Their plan is as simple as it is incredibly dangerous. Go straight to the source. They decide to contact a member of the DuPernes family, right there in St. Louis, and confront the architects of this 200-year-old conspiracy face to face. Which brings us to our final, lingering question. They've been beaten, robbed, terrorized. They have literally lost everything, except the knowledge of the truth. But when you're dealing with a conspiracy this deep, a secret this old, what is that truth actually worth? And what happens when you try to bargain with the people who've spent centuries making sure it stays buried?